No, no, that's great. Thank you so much, Randy. I'm so sorry that I've wasted your time. Wasted my time? Are you kidding me? I'm about relationships here. Just keep calling, but if my time blessed you, I'm going to send you a link to my review page and give me a Google review. Because that's another thing that companies make the mistake of. They only ask for reviews when they've exchanged dollars with somebody. My company has collectively probably 1,200 reviews, 5-star reviews between our locations. And it's because we ask for them anytime a customer experiences us.
So Randy, tell me about your story with roofing. From the time before DT Roofing to now, where you're at, what has your story been?
Well, my story actually started well before roofing. I actually started in the IT security software space. I fell into roofing. I was working for an organization out of LA for about 20-something years. And I ended up moving to Texas to move my family out of California in 2005. And originally was doing my job at home, but this was pre-COVID, and having kids screaming in the background and dogs barking wasn't appropriate, as it's accepted now. And so we decided that I was going to go ahead and get an office space outside of the house to do my IT security consulting. And I ended up renting a space right next to this roofing company called DT Roofing. And I became acquainted with the owner among the different businesses in the space. And we'd go to lunch and talk shop, and he'd share some of his angst about his business. And I knew nothing about roofing. I knew nothing about construction. My mom, I often say, my mom had 4 boys. 3 of them were in construction, and 1 of them was a nerd, and I was the nerd. And so I understood business. I understood how a business process worked because of all of my years in the IT security space, working with corporations and what have you. And so I decided to start selling for the roofing company on the side, nights and weekends, to just learn the industry, with the goal of being to help my now friend with his business. And I started to realize really quickly that I really liked it a lot. I really liked dealing with individuals and their homes instead of the corporate America approach. And so, long story short, I started praying about whether I need to change careers. And at this point, I'm in my late 30s. I'd been in IT security most of my professional life. And so it became an identity. So changing careers was a big deal, right? And I was the sole income earner in the home. And so I got my answer real quick, because the company that I was working with, they ended up getting purchased by private equity, and they didn't need any of the contractors that were connected to them. So they got me my answer real quick. And after 20 some odd years of the IT security space, I went next door to my now partner and said, "Hey, you know how you've been trying to get me to come on full time?" He goes, I know, I can't afford you." Because that's what I always told him when he'd crack jokes about, "Come on, man, you got to leave and come on board." I said, "I start tomorrow." And he was immediately like, "Wait, what?" I could still see his face when I told him that. And I said, "But I have one requirement." I said, I've got to run it. I said, because we really don't have a whole lot of process. There's no technology being used within the company to make processes more efficient. There's not really a sales process at all. And so I want to be able to I want to run the sales and the marketing side. You handle all the back end stuff, the books, the dealing with taxes and paying people and all that. I'll deal with finding the money, you deal with spending it, is essentially the joke that we used. And so he agreed. And after the first year, up until that point, the company started in 2009. And this was beginning of 2016. The company had never achieved more than $2 million in revenue in a year. And so when I told him, if you trust me, in a very small amount of time, we'll be a $3 to $5 million company. He looked at me like I had ink on my face. And he said, "We've never achieved past 2 million. And I said, "I know, because you've been putting roofs on well, and you've existed, but you've been reactive. And what I'm going to do is be proactive, and I'm going to create process, and I'm going to create training so that we can grow, and you'll see the difference." Well, the first year under my leadership, we did $3.8 million. And the second year we did 5.7. So I achieved my 3 to 5. And at that point is when I approached him and said, hey, listen, I just spent 20 some odd years in IT security, helping a company grow to the point where they got purchased. And I had no job at the end of that. I said, I'm not going to do that again. So I'd like equity. And I think I've proven to you that I know what I'm doing and that I'm committed. And he agreed ultimately. And that grew into starting 4 other companies. We have a commercial roofing company, a construction company, a gutter company, and a garage door service company. And last year, company-wide, we did $40 million in revenue, and our residential roofing company alone did $30 million. And we continue to grow. This year, we've already taken on 2 new markets that are double the market that we've already served in the past. And so there's a good chance that we'll see a huge growth in 2026 because of that decision. And that's how I got into roofing.
Thank you so much for sharing. That sounds incredible, especially just like diving in, being proactive, starting up a bunch of other companies on top of what you were already accomplishing with DT Roofing. For anybody listening right now who's thinking about starting a roofing company, what would you say is the most important thing that they need to think about for the first, let's call it 1 to 3 months?
Well, you have to start, day one, you need to identify what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I think too many people get into business with this grandiose idea of I'm going to be a roofing company. And they don't ask themselves, well, what does that look like? What is my goal? And you have to have multiple goals. You know, when you play the video games, the racing video games, and you have a checkpoint, and then you finally get to the finish line, you have to have checkpoints in your business. And you have to say, okay, what's my goal, my first checkpoint? And then once I get there, what's my stretch? You know, in sales, we call it a stretch goal for sales that you're trying to achieve. And so I would say, find out what your identity is going to be. You know, the reason why we were able to start 4 other companies is because we first focused on our primary company and service, which was roofing. And we built such a great name and reputation in our area that when we decided to get into construction and we started a construction company, it was Kingdom Builders Construction, a DT company. Patriot Garage Door and Service, a DT company. People didn't know what the names were, but when they saw that the DT was attached to it, they're like, I don't know that name, but I know that symbol and I know what they're synonymous with. Quality, integrity, they do good work and they stand behind their work. I'm gonna give them a shot. And both companies right out of the gate were successful because of that. We didn't have that time to market where we're constantly throwing a bunch of money at marketing and trying to figure ourselves out in the market. People already understood who we were because we had already earned that from building such a good initial product. And so I would say that somebody that's considering starting a roofing company is have specific goals. And then the second thing I would say is I like to say, wear as many hats as you can until you can afford not to. Because another mistake that a lot of roofing companies make is they have a first few wins and they start hiring a bunch of people, especially hiring a bunch of overhead, salary-based people or hourly-based people. And then they realize real quick, the sales aren't tracking with all the money I've spent. And then they get in trouble real quick, right? So for the first several years, I wore many hats in the company. I was the top salesman. I was also the sales manager. I also ordered all the roofs. I dealt with all the supplements for all the sales guys to make sure that they were taken care of with our supplement company that we were working with at the time. I wore a lot of hats until we could afford not to. And then when we got our revenue up to a point where I could start offloading some of those responsibilities, I could. But I didn't do it before I can afford to. And so that would be probably the key 2 points is find out what your identity is and what your ultimate goal is, and then make sure you're wearing as many hats as you can until you can afford not to.
I'm really interested because one thing that RoofLink prides itself on is being able to help companies scale their revenue without scaling their overhead. How does that fit in with the DT roofing story?
Well, we actually stumbled across RoofLink at a sales transformation group summit that was being hosted by Ryan Groth and his team. And RoofLink was a vendor there. At the time, we were on AccuLinks. And we always knew that AccuLinks was extremely rigid for us. You know, we felt like we had to do business the way they say we have to do business instead of allowing us to be, to design it the way that we would prefer. So when we got our first demo of RoofLink, I was on that demo. Normally my VP of sales is he brought the product to me, and then I did the demo with them. And whoever was on the call, they probably got questions they've never had from customers before, because of course I was utilizing my technology background in my questioning and what I've always wanted out of AccuLinks, which was flexibility, being able to make it what I needed to be to fit my business. And right out of the gate, I started hearing the answers that I needed to hear. Open APIs, being able to connect, being able to create reporting that I need specifically to my business. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And so it was a no-brainer to move over to RoofLink, because it allowed us to essentially start over the way that we were running the company and the processes we had. We were able to make it exactly what we wanted instead of having to work within the confinement of what somebody else's idea of how a roofing company should be set up. And so I would definitely encourage anyone who is considering either starting a roofing company or already has one, if you're looking for a platform that's more flexible, that allows you to make it fit your company, then RoofLink is definitely the right product.
RoofLink developed a guide for how to launch a roofing company, what to focus on in the first 90 days, which is why we're talking right now, is I kind of wanted to get your insight on top of that guide. In the guide, it mentions scouring what would be your competitors, like other roofing businesses, 1-star reviews like on Google, and seeing where are their weaknesses and are there any weaknesses out there that are your strengths or could be your strengths, and helping that to frame your identity.
This is where I'll disagree with it.
I love it.
I'll disagree with it because I think far too many people worry too much about what the other guy's doing, and they try to compete with them instead of doing just the opposite and find the companies that are doing it right and collaborate with them. In our industry, I'm specifically known as somebody who will reach out to other roofing company owners that I see doing it right and say, hey, how can I mentor you? How can I help out? I may not have all the answers, but how can I help you where I can help you? Because I love to see good guys smashing it, right? I've had competitors locally. I go to lunch with them. I'd give them a bunch of nuggets that we're doing. And at the end, we're walking back to our trucks after lunch, and I have the question, what's your angle here? I said, what are you talking about? Why would you tell me everything you guys are doing? I said, let me tell you something. Only 5% of the people that I say anything to are going to do anything with it. And you're never going to outwork me. So why would I not want somebody else? We did 1,500 roofs last year, and there's 50,000 people in this community. Do you think I can serve them all? So if I can do a little bit to help another good guy serve his customers well, when I lose to him, our industry as a whole lifts in the minds of our community, because everybody knows roofing doesn't exactly have the best reputation, right? Especially when 96% of them go out of business in the first 5 years. Focus on the companies that are where you want to be. And I still live by that. We're a $30 million company, and 4 months ago, I flew out to Georgia with my VP of sales and met with a $38 million company, Fraser Roofing. Dominic, love you, buddy. And he is a great mentor to me. And we met with him for the entire day from breakfast to dinner. And I asked a bunch of questions, and he asked a bunch of things. We shared nuggets, and we both walked away with great, feedback from each other, and we implemented those into our businesses. And so looking at somebody as a competitor is just kind of like a defeatist mentality. Like, go and collaborate with them, and you'll learn a lot from them, and they'll learn from you. And part of the other reason why I like to help is because many times my goal is to help another roofing company. They may be a $3 million roofing company, right? Still killing it. But they'll tell me something that they're doing. I'm like, that is genius. And that would work just fine in my $30 million company. And so I glean things from others as well, as my intent is to help them. And so just having kind of a servant heart and looking and saying, hey, how can I help you? And then you end up getting something from them. It just works out.
It's important to find mentorship So how would you say you should go about finding mentors within the roofing space, especially when you're starting out or you're just trying to grow? What do you look for, and how do you network?
In the industry, you tend to know you may not know their numbers, but you can tell the way that they carry themselves in the industry, or how they, what they post on social or what have you, if they're just there for the drama or if they're there to be helpful, and their responses to other people when they post. In this particular case with Dominic, I watched a podcast that he was on with a marketing company, and I really, really liked the guy. Like every answer he gave, and my wife even, she could hear me listening to the podcast from her bathroom, and I heard her say like, "You guys have a lot in common, like our mindset and stuff." And I was like, "That's what I was thinking." So I reached out to Tim Brown, the guy that was doing the podcast, hosting the podcast, and I said, "Hey, can you introduce me to Dominic?" Then I looked him up on the roofing contractors top 100, because he had mentioned that. That's why I had looked him up. He looked it up that he was on the top 100, and he was 3 above me. And so I was like, okay, we're close in business size, but he's still bigger than me. I reached out to him. Tim connected us on Messenger. Dominic and I jumped on the phone and just hit it off. And so I just asked. But there's a lot of companies out there. You just have to ask. You just reach out.
What's the best way to ask?
I would just plainly ask, "Hey, Randy, my name is John. I'm with this company. We started 18 months ago. Man, I've been following." This is what I hear a lot, so I'll just tell you what I hear. "I've been following you on socials for a little while, and man, I really like the way that you run your business. I've been following your company's page. Man, could I get like an hour of your time? Like maybe come down and go to lunch with you and just pick your brain on a couple of things?" And we should be willing to do that, even if you're not going to glean something from them, though you likely will. I know that when I started in this business, there were a lot of people that I looked up to. Even if I didn't reach out to them directly, I would follow their model and go, "Man, that's cool. I'm going to start incorporating that into our business and stuff." And so it's a way to give back, so yeah, that's, I would just simply reach out. And if you get somebody that ghosts you, then that's probably for the better. But I would be willing to bet that they would be, it would be a compliment to them that you reached out, and they'd be more than happy, even if maybe it's not one-on-one in a person, but maybe, yeah, let's jump on a Zoom call or something and what have you. So, yeah.
So you mentioned that you want to hit checkpoint after checkpoint after checkpoint. What checkpoints should you be looking to hit in like the first 6 months? Like if you miss these checkpoints, like your business might suffer. What would you say, or we could even limit it to like, what's the top thing you should be focusing on before you do anything else the first like 3 months, 6 months starting your roofing business?
Yeah, so most people are going to think that I'm going to have a revenue as an answer, and the reality is I'm not. If you're not there to make revenue, then you shouldn't be in business. But your first 3 to 6 months should also be targeting, like, if you know you're not good at bookkeeping, hire a bookkeeper. Don't try to figure it out on your own, and then you get to your first quarterly and you realize you've done everything wrong. Find that bookkeeper that understands, not just somebody who calls themselves a bookkeeper, but somebody that understands home services specifically, and hire them. That's going to be one of your first hires, but that's a service. That's not in-house. It's not a direct. It is overhead, but it's not a liability. Marketing, it comes later. Most people want to go out and spend a bunch of money on marketing, SEO, what have you, and they forget the value of going out and just finding the business on your own. We have a philosophy at our company where relationships are how you grow. And so we're very keen on building our relationships with real estate agents, with property managers, with insurance agents, because these are professionals that need our services at some point for them to be successful. And so when you can approach them, and not the sleazy approach of, "Here's my business card and a dozen donuts and call me if you need roofing." Like everybody sounds like that, right? And so you sound like everyone else. But in the case of like an insurance agent, you walk in and say, "Yeah, can I speak to whoever writes policies?" Well, I've already gotten past the gatekeeper at that point, because the gatekeeper went to the back to go get the guy. He walks out. Why is she going to get him? Because she thinks I want a policy, right?
Yep.
He comes out. I introduce myself and who I am and who I'm with. And I ask a simple question. How many times have you, now this is, of course, this works more in a storm market than it would in a retail market. How many times have you written a policy and a couple of months later, a small storm comes through, maybe drops some pea-sized hail, and that customer you wrote 3 months ago is now filing a hail damage policy. And you and I both know that that roof did not get damaged by that hail. It's more likely that they had damage already, but because your policy is not to go out and actually put your eyes on the property, you just want to sign that policy to get another customer. You're now replacing a roof and you haven't even gotten 2 or 3 payments from the customer. And they'll generally say, oh yeah, either I know it's happened or I'm sure it's happened. And so what we say is, well, how about every single time you're writing a policy, you make us part of your process. We'll go out on your behalf for free and we'll inspect that property and we'll provide you a report that shows you exactly what's going on the property. If there's repairs or replacement to be had, we'll work with the homeowner to make those happen. And if it's a replacement, we'll work with their current insurance company, get the roof replaced, and then we'll deliver them right back to you with a nice red bow. And now you can write a more aggressive policy for them because they have a brand new roof. They introduce less risk to you because it's a brand new roof, so they get a better policy. You get a new customer. I got a job out of it. And the only people that are not happy right now is the insurance company that had to replace the roof. But they should have replaced it. It got damaged under their watch. How many insurance companies in the area do you think call DT Roofing and make us part of their process? Because I provided a value. I didn't go in there and say, I want your business, roofer, roofing. I said, how can I help you? How can I increase your or reduce your rate of claims right out of the gate, and at least get 5 or 6 years of premiums from this customer before you're replacing their roof. And so it resonates. It resonates with insurance companies, and every roofing company out there can do this.
Yeah, no, it's a great mindset shift.
But they only think about inbound leads and what Google can create for them and what SEO is doing for them. I do all that.
Right.
I'm often asked, what's the silver bullet? And I say, there is no silver bullet. It's a magazine full of them with one in the chamber. You got to do everything.
I imagine a lot of people who are watching this right now are interested in financials of like, how much money do you even have to have in the bank account? Or like, what is your assets and stuff? Like, what does that all look like before you even think about, starting a roofing company? Do you have any insight there?
Let me say this. I opened up by saying that the company that I came on to had never achieved more than 1.8 million in revenue. The truth is, and my partner shared this with me about 1.5 years, 2 years after I came on board, that we were about to close the doors. So revenue numbers don't mean anything if you're not able to keep it. And Derek understood how to do roofs really well, and he understood community. Our church was actually some of the majority of the customers. He was part of a really big church at the time, and everybody at that church knew DT Roofing and knew Derek specifically. So that's where most of his revenue came from. And so some of the mistakes that were learned early on that we've now learned from them, and now now we can teach off of those, was not getting overextended with suppliers. Not having 5 suppliers. Like, that was one of the things that I changed right out of the gate, was pick a supplier that you want to build a long-term relationship with and give them all the business, because they're much more willing to extend your credit when you're giving them jobs constantly, instead of, I'll give a little over here and a little over here.
Yeah, that's one thing we hit on the guide is, in the beginning, you can kind of pick all of the different distributors and stuff and get a feeling for it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I agree with you that you need to pick 1 or 2 and develop really good relationships, because that's so important.
And that's what we do. Obviously, being a larger company, we can't always just give all the business to one, because Owens Corning, for example, they are on allocation. They'll only give so many trucks to a particular location. And so if that location can't get what we need, then we will go other places. But we do build relationships, and those relationships are really important to us. And so, but having 5 different companies that you're buying from, that just doesn't make any sense. The other thing is, having multiple crews. pick 1 or 2 crews and make them busy every day of the year, and they will go to the moon and back for you. When you call and say, hey, that roof you did a month ago is leaking by the chimney, they're out there that morning to try to make it work. Why? Because they know where their bread is buttered. And it also gives you the ability to build a relationship with them when you're seeing them all the time instead of one of 7 crews, you know? So to get back to the original question about how much money you have to have, you know, I would say we were negative.
Yeah.
You know, and we were able to make it happen, you know, but it had a lot to do with just getting out there and making it happen, regardless of whether we had the marketing dollars to do so, which we did not.
Right.
And so it was getting in front of all the right people. And that was one of the advantages that I brought to the table was I didn't understand the door knocking world. I didn't understand any of the traditional approaches that roofing companies make to find opportunity, but I did understand is how to deal with professionals. And so that's why I started approaching the realtors and it created what title of one of the chapters in an industry book I wrote was called Secret Salesforce. And that was my secret Salesforce. I had sales guys that worked for me, but I had all these realtors, insurance agents, and property managers that were blowing my phone up constantly. Hey, I have another address for you to look at. Hey, I need you to look at it. Can you take a look at this? Yep, I'll get it right out there. Yep. Hey, good news. Nothing wrong with this roof. It looks amazing. Do you need me to put that in an email, or are you good with me just letting you know? No, that's great. Thank you so much, Randy. I'm so sorry that I've wasted your time. Wasted my time? Are you kidding me? I'm about relationships here. Just keep calling. You know, but if my time blessed you, I'm going to send you a link to my review page and give me a Google review. Because that's another thing that companies make the mistake of. They only ask for reviews when they've exchanged dollars with somebody. My company has collectively probably 1,200 reviews, 5-star reviews between our locations. And it's because we asked for them anytime a customer experiences us. So if I go out to your house and I inspect your roof and I get off and say, good news, Mr. Smith, there's nothing wrong with your roof. It looks great. There were a couple of nail heads that were exposed from just old caulking, but I went ahead and just sealed them up for you. Oh, well, what do I owe you? Oh, you don't owe me anything. Don't worry about it. That's just, you know, anytime you have any type of wind event or a hailstorm or anything that you're uncomfortable about, call me back out. I'll be glad to give you another peace of mind inspection. And, oh man, thank you so much. Well, sorry I wasted your time. For some reason, they always think they're wasting your time. And that's partially because we've made them feel that way, right? We make them think if you're not spending money with me, you wasted my time.
Right.
And my guys are trained. No, it's not a waste of time at all. But if my time blessed you, I'd love a review from you. So we get a review from Mr. Smith. I talked to Dwayne and he came out right away and did an inspection and said everything was great with my roof. Man, what a fantastic company. I can't wait until the next storm comes. I'm going to use them. And then later on, that review gets updated with, called DT Roofing out, my roof got hit with hail and da-da-da-da, and they update that review. We don't get a net new review, but we get the updated review from the customer with their experience with us. But how did we get that customer? It's because we out of the gate, we were trying to build that relationship. And so they called us back when they actually needed us.
Yeah,
so
I mean, referral marketing is so important, especially.
So important.
I mean, the whole time, right? But in the beginning, like you got to build those relationships so those referrals come in. And a lot of people don't understand that is a form of marketing.
It's huge. It's huge. Our top, and I just looked this up, that's one reason why it's top of mind. Our top 3 lead sources as of a couple of weeks ago when I looked it up were self-generated leads, meaning the sales guy made the lead, you know, from a relationship they had, referrals, or Randy Hurtado lead. Because in our company, if you're not in sales, but you create a lead opportunity, you can submit it to the team that distributes the leads under your name. And if that job goes anywhere, you get 10% of the commission.
I mean, that sounds like a sweet deal.
I still do it as the owner. I'm like, heck, I'm getting my credit.
Yeah.
But this is what's cool about it. That makes every person in my company, all 78 of them, a salesman.
Yeah.
Because they know, hey, well, before, if I didn't have that process in place, well, one of the girls may be out getting their nails done and they hear the wife next door talking, or a lady next door talking about how she's trying to get her husband to hire a company to build a pergola on the back of their house. Well, before it was just kind of like white noise. Now they have their ears propped up. Hey, our sister company is Kingdom Builder Construction. If you give me your info, I'll have them reach out to you and let you know what it would take to build that pergola. everybody becomes a salesperson.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And so they love it. Like I remember the very first time we opened that program up, one of our guys, Michael Baldwin, he came into the office. I had just happened to be in there, and he goes, "Hey, I think there's something wrong with my check this week." And you're like, "Oh, what's wrong with it? That's important to me." He goes, "Nothing bad. Actually, I had like $700 extra on there, and I'm not sure where it came from." And so we looked it up. Remember that 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago, I think it was, or whatever, when you went next door when you were doing that, because he was a project manager for our construction company. Yeah. And you talked to that homeowner when they stepped out on their lawn, and you turn their information in. Yeah, we did a roof for them. So you got some of the commission. He was like, oh, it works. Man, that guy made $12,000 extra that year because he just was listening for opportunities.
Yeah.
And just turning his name in, Michael Baldwin lead.
And if you're going to work in the industry anyway, I mean, you're going to be around people who need roofs and stuff.
That's it. And so extending that opportunity to not just our DT roofing employees, but all of our company employees, they're able to make extra money just for listening, or looking for an opportunity to say something.
That's such a creative way, and honestly, a pretty simple way.
Most of these things are simple, to be honest with you. They're not rocket science.
Well, and you had mentioned earlier, like you're willing to share advice with people because you understand that like a lot of people are just going to ignore it. They're not going to put it into practice.
That's right.
But like you're leaving money on the table when you ignore that advice and you don't do those things, especially if you already own a roofing company.
A lot of these nuggets are the reason why there will be companies that fail and companies that continue to grow when the deductibles continue to go crazy or the insurance companies decide to drop roofs altogether from coverage. The companies that are doing these types of things are the ones that are going to be around. And the ones that always relied on just the basic low-hanging fruit approaches, they're going to get into some other industry or co-find a 9-to-5. So yeah, all of these things work. And most of the time they don't cost you a penny.
So my final question for you is, you meet somebody who wants to start a roofing company. They have the right personality. They've been working in roofing. Like they have enough experience that like they could go do it, but they're on the fence because they just don't believe in themselves. They're really afraid of taking that leap, or like calling that person, that mentor, and just being like, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting this roofing company. Can you help me?" What would you say to that person?
I would say before you try to run a business, work in one first. So maybe you being an entrepreneur right out of the gate isn't a good idea because you have a lot of experiences within that industry that you may not have experienced yet. My situation was a little different because I understood the business side of things. So once you understand the business side and the referral and relationship approach, you could pretty much sell anything. You could sell widgets, you can sell services, it doesn't matter as long as you understand that. But if you're somebody that doesn't have that experience already, maybe getting and working for a company first and learning it. I'm not afraid of any of my guys leaving us and starting their own roofing companies. My goal is to make my business so appealing to them and them to make so much money that they would say, I would be a fool to go out and take all of that risk and all of that stress on just to compete against DT roofing. I'd rather just be here and be able to go home at night and enjoy my evening with my family and spend my weekends with my family and make a ton of money.
Because it's going to be a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I have a lot of gray hair in my head I didn't have when I started in 16, So, and I don't want to leave out the point I just made. There's a lot of liability. There's a lot of risk. Every single vehicle that we own, that we financed, or our building and all this debt that we have, that's all liability on me and my partner. And so, but our staff sees that and they understand, like, we've got a good thing going here. Yeah. And so I don't have early on when I first came on, I made the mistake of hiring a couple of people that I shouldn't have hired, and not because of their personality, is because of their situation. One of them was a firefighter who wanted to do his 24-hour shift and then work roofing sales on the 48 off. And at the time I was new to the company. I just wanted to build out a sales organization. So I tried it. It just didn't work out. Yeah. He ended up starting his own roofing company, left firefighting to continue his roofing company. And I'm rooting for him. I hope he's successful. another guy, our personalities just didn't jive well. I had some expectations that he didn't like, and they weren't real unrealistic. They were just, I think it was, I don't like to be told, how it needs to be done, and I'm not a micromanager, but I have certain ways that I want the same things done, and there's a reason behind it. And those that have been with me a long time understand now, oh, and that's why he wanted it that way. But at the beginning, so there's a little pushback. He started his own roofing company afterwards, and I don't know if he's continued. I haven't really seen him in our area a whole lot, but I wish him the best. I hope that he's still successful. But I really wish that both of them could have stuck around, because they would have saw that they would have been part of a much larger organization than they left. And they wouldn't have all that liability, and stress attached to that.
So what I'm hearing is, like, if you're going to make that leap and do the hard work, you better think twice about it, and then 3 times, and then commit to it before you do it.
That's right.
So, well, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I had a wonderful conversation. I learned a lot.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity and asking me to come. Hopefully it provides value to those that are watching. And if anybody wants to reach out, I'm on Facebook, Randy Martin Hurtado with the blue check mark. Message me. I'm glad to answer any questions. Like I said in the interview, I don't know everything, but where I can help, I'd love to. And I just love to see people smash it.